How do you fight a war without firing a single shot? How do you stop an army of tanks using nothing but air and sound? In the middle of World War II, while the world was focused on battles and bombs, a top-secret American unit was asking these very questions. They were a strange army of 1,100 men, an army of artists, actors, and sound engineers. Their mission was not to destroy the enemy, but to fool them completely. This is the incredible story of the Ghost Army. The story begins in Europe, 1944. The Allies were planning the D-Day invasion, the largest military attack in history. But for it to succeed, they had to trick the Germans. They needed Hitler to believe the main attack was coming somewhere else, at a place called Pas-de-Calais. Hitler's armies were strong. If they knew the real invasion location in Normandy, they could rush all their tanks and soldiers there and crush the Allied forces. Therefore, the Allies needed to create a massive illusion. They needed a phantom army to make the Germans move their best troops to the wrong place. The British had already tried this with fake tanks in North Africa, and it had worked. So, America decided to create its own special unit, dedicated completely to the art of deception. In January 1944, the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops was born. This was the official name for the Ghost Army. The unit had only 1,100 men, but their job was to appear like a force of 30,000. To do this, they were split into 4 very different teams. First was the 603rd Camouflage Engineers. This group was filled with artists, designers, and architects recruited from the top art schools in America. Their job was to handle the visual tricks. They would build entire armies from rubber and air. Next was the 3,132nd Sonic Company. These were the sound experts. They worked with Bell Labs, the company that invented the telephone, to record the sounds of war. They recorded tanks moving, soldiers shouting, and trucks driving. Then they figured out how to blast these sounds across a battlefield using huge speakers. Third was the Signal Company Special. These were the radio wizards. Their job was to pretend to be the radio operators for real American divisions. They learned to copy the exact way different operators sent Morse code, including their personal rhythm and even their mistakes. Finally, there was the 406th Combat Engineers. This group provided security for the whole operation. They were the guards, protecting the artists and sound guys while they set up their illusions, often dangerously close to the enemy. But how could a handful of artists and sound guys actually convince German spies they were a 30,000-man army? It couldn't just be a few rubber tanks sitting in a field. The secret was in layering the illusions. It was a full performance designed to trick every sense. First, the visual team would set up hundreds of inflatable tanks, jeeps, and airplanes. Then, the sonic unit would roll in and blast the sounds of those tanks being repaired or their engines rumbling. At the same time, the radio unit would start broadcasting fake messages about troop movements and battle plans. From the German perspective, they saw an army, they heard an army, and their spies intercepted its radio chatter. All the evidence pointed to a real threat, making it too risky to ignore. Okay, so they had inflatable tanks, but how do you make a 90-pound rubber bag actually look like a 34-ton steel machine? Wouldn't a German spy plane see that they were fake? This is where the artists came in. They didn't just inflate the tanks. They were masters of detail. After pumping up a tank, they would paint it with fake mud and dirt to make it look used and heavy. They understood how light and shadow worked, so they painted fake shadows on the ground beneath the inflatables to give them a sense of weight. Most impressively, they would use tractors to create fake tank tracks in the dirt, making it look as if a whole column of heavy tanks had just rolled through the area. From the air, the illusion was nearly perfect. In August 1944, the Ghost Army got one of its first major assignments in France. The real 6th Armored Division was getting ready to attack the German port of Brest. However, the Ghost Army was ordered to make the Germans think the attack was coming from a completely different direction. So, the unit moved in and set up their inflatable army. The sonic trucks played the sounds of tanks rolling into position all through the night. The radio team began sending fake messages. German spy planes flew over, took pictures of the massive buildup of tanks and trucks, and reported it back. The German commanders, believing the reports, moved their soldiers to defend against the fake army. This trick bought the real 6th Armored Division precious time to move into position and attack where the Germans were now weakest. A month later, they were called on again near the city of Metz. Here their job was even bigger: pretend to be 2 entire American divisions. They set up over 500 dummy vehicles. But then, the Sonic team got creative. They started blasting the sounds of engineering crews building pontoon bridges across a river. To the Germans, this was a clear signal that a major river crossing was about to happen at that exact spot. German intelligence bought it completely. They aimed their big artillery guns at the empty fields full of rubber tanks and waited. This drew German fire away from where the real American attack was happening, saving countless lives. This sounds like a clever and maybe even fun job, playing with balloons and sound effects to fool the enemy. But here's the remarkable twist. It was one of the most dangerous jobs on the front line. For the tricks to be believable, the Ghost Army had to set up their illusions extremely close to the enemy, sometimes less than a half-mile away. Picture this. You are in an open field in the middle of the night. You are pumping up a giant balloon while real enemy shells are exploding nearby. You have no real tanks, no artillery, and only a small rifle to defend yourself. If the Germans discover your trick and decide to attack, you have nothing. Your only defense is the illusion itself. If it fails, you are a sitting duck. The men of the Ghost Army gambled their lives on their creativity every single night. The human element was just as important. The Ghost Army called this part of the act atmospherics. Their goal was to create the feeling of a large, busy army. They would create fake command posts, complete with official-looking signs pointing the way to a divisional headquarters. Soldiers would dress up as high-ranking officers, like colonels and generals, and drive into local towns. They would deliberately talk loudly in cafes about fake battle plans, hoping German spies were listening. Other soldiers would dress as military police and stand on roads directing trucks that did not exist. One of their most clever tricks was to have a single jeep drive in a large loop over and over again. To any watching spies, it looked like a constant stream of messengers was rushing to and from a busy command center. This was all put to the ultimate test during the brutal winter of the Battle of the Bulge. After a surprise German attack, a huge gap opened up in the American lines in Luxembourg. A real division had been rushed away to fight elsewhere, leaving the front line dangerously thin. The Ghost Army was ordered to fill that gap. In the middle of a freezing snowstorm, they had to pretend to be a full American division holding the line. They worked in miserable conditions, their hands numb from the cold, as they painted fake snow and mud onto their rubber tanks to make them look like they had just arrived from a hard fight. But it worked. German reconnaissance planes flew over and spotted what looked like a fresh, strong American division moving in. Believing the line was secure, the German commanders held back their attack, giving real American forces the precious time they needed to regroup. The artists and actors of the Ghost Army had held the line against a real enemy with nothing but rubber and imagination. By March 1945, the war was nearing its end. The Allies were ready to cross the Rhine River, the last major barrier into Germany. This was a huge and dangerous operation. The real Ninth Army was planning its crossing, but the Ghost Army was given its most important mission yet: convince the Germans the crossing was happening 10 miles away. This was their biggest performance ever. They impersonated 2 full divisions. They set up over 600 inflatable vehicles. They created fake artillery positions and even a fake bridge construction site right on the riverbank. All night, the Sonic team blasted the sounds of bulldozers and cranes. Meanwhile, the radio team sent out a storm of fake messages. The result was a total success. German commanders, terrified of a major crossing at the fake location, pulled 2 entire panzer divisions away from the real crossing spot to face the Ghost Army. Because the German defenses were so weak at the real location, the Ninth Army got across the Rhine with far fewer casualties than anyone thought possible. When the war ended, the Ghost Army simply vanished. The members were sworn to secrecy. They could not tell anyone, not even their families, what they had really done. Their story was classified top secret for over 50 years. The US Army did not want its enemies to know about these kinds of tricks. It was not until 1996 that the files were finally declassified. The story of the Ghost Army began to come out, and the world learned about their secret war of deception. Finally, in 2022, the unit was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal, one of the nation's highest honors. The Ghost Army fought its war not with firepower, but with imagination. They were painters who created armies from thin air. They were sound engineers who made the enemy shoot at shadows. By tricking the German army, they are credited with saving the lives of tens of thousands of Allied soldiers. But their story raises a deeper question. Can deception be as powerful as destruction? And can creativity truly be the ultimate weapon? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this look into a top-secret piece of history, subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories you were never told in school.